Okay, welcome to my final chapter. I'm finally finishing the RME 69, and what I've done so far, I went ahead and removed and replaced all the capacitors and resistors. These are all the dog bone resistors that I finally took them off. Now these resistors were way out of tolerance. A lot of these resistors were way off, sometimes up to 125% off tolerance. The unit still worked after I did a recap, but when I replaced the resistors, as soon as I replaced the resistors, and as soon as I brought this back to life, powered it back on, and did a IF alignment, this thing is a super hot receiver. It's extremely sensitive. I'm using just a basic wire, basic 100-foot wire strung across two trees, maybe about 15 feet high. And this receiver, it's super hot. It's sensitive with a lot of gain. It sounds wonderful. So if you do have your RME and you're thinking about replacing the resistors, the dog bones, if you only replace the capacitors, I do recommend to go ahead and replace the resistors. Some of you folks want to leave the resistors on because you want to leave it original. You know, not me. I want to use this receiver. I'm going to put a lot of hours listening to shortwave radio. I love listening to shortwave radio, and I want to go ahead and put new components because, eventually these dog bones will drift again, and I have the time, and I do have the components in stock. So hey, why not? At least for me, that's my. Some of you folks know that you guys want to keep it original. Not me. I want to keep it functional. I want to keep it operating. I want to use this receiver. So that's why I went ahead and completely removed all the capacitors and resistors. Like I mentioned in my previous video, this tone, I went ahead and resanded and I painted. I cleaned up all the knobs. I cleaned up the glass. I went ahead and took this meter apart, cleaned that up, and this thing sounds wonderful. It sounds super sensitive. I have a national HRO Junior, and this receiver, it's super sensitive to that national. Very sensitive. I like it. I'm loving this receiver. I'm not sure how many of you have an opportunity to use one of these or to listen to a RME 69, but if you do decide to pick one up, I do recommend it. They're beautiful receivers, easy to work on, very sensitive, and it sounds wonderful. Very lovely tune. It has a nice tune. So let me go through the knobs real quick. This is the off and on and tone control, and this is right here is the CW tone. This is the RF gain. This is the main tuning. The band spread. The band selector. What is this, antenna resonator. Audio amp, audio level, and this one comes with some RMEs do come with a noise reduction. This is a noise reduction RME. I was reading the manual, and it doesn't talk too much about it in terms of its usefulness. When I've used in high frequencies or even low frequencies, I don't see the difference. I looked at the schematic to make sure I have all the components in correctly, but no, even the manual says that this is not real. It's used mainly if you are near where there's a lot of generators or a lot of power line transformers, or you're going to run this in DC mode off your car and you're the alternator. I guess back then the alternators were really noisy, so they incorporated a noise sensitivity for noise suppression. That's what I've been reading, but what do I know? And this is for what is this for? Selectivity for the crystal, and this is the crystal off and on. Now, just to let you know, when I did the, I'm gonna walk you through how I did my IF transformers peak, and I followed the manual. I did my own little way of tuning it. And I tuned it. I had it for almost now. I've been messing with it for about a month. I've tuned it the way the manual wants me to peak it. I tuned it that way. I tuned it my way. And I did a combination. And I found finally, after about a month of messing around with this, I was able to figure out the best practical way to peak the IF cans. And I'll show you that in a minute. How it worked for me and how I made this receiver super hot and super sensitive. And if a lot of you already know how to do this, tune IF, calibrate and tune the IF transformers, it's a piece of cake. It's nothing hard, nothing out of the ordinary. Just follow the manual, but I'll show you my little tips and tricks, what worked for me and how I made this super sensitive, more sensitive than it already is. So now let me walk you through the receiver, just to show you what it looks like. It's beastly heavy. This receiver is, I think it weighs maybe 52 pounds. It's heavy. So this is it. I repainted the transformers. I took this box apart, painted that. I sanded this and polished it. I put a little bit of a anti-rust polish. Like I told you, I removed the RME from the old RME, and I gently removed it from the old plate and cut it and glued it onto this one after I painted it. So all the gray you see, this is obviously the capacitors. There's 3 capacitors in here, 8, 12, and 12 at 450. And let's see, what else can I show you? Like I said, this receiver is a very hot, very, very sensitive hot receiver. Beautiful, beautiful receiver. Easy to use, easy to calibrate. Now this part right here, this is the noise suppression, a part of the circuitry. So pretty much this is it, the finished product. I painted the box itself, the enclosure, with the same wrinkle black finish. I'll put it together after I show you how to calibrate, or tips and tricks on how to calibrate your RME. So let me flip it over so you can see underneath. Okay, give me a minute. This is heavy. Okay, so this is the underside of the beast. And as you can see, all the new capacitors, all the new resistors. What I've done is I've used a lot of high-grade military 1% resistors where the circuit counts. And I use basic carbon composite. In other places, I try to use 1% in the audio section and in the tuning area as well. So there's another 1% high-grade military resistors. These are your carbon composite resistors. So yeah, it works wonderful. This is part of the zero, set 0 on the meter, on the front meter. These are the bias for the 42 output tube. Now this, I failed to mention, before I received this, when I received this radio, somebody did a mod. The previous owner did a mod, and I can't figure out what the mod is for yet. This extra capacitor here is for that mod, and there's a couple of other components that the previous owner, see right here, this resistor doesn't belong. It's not original. This cable's not original. Some of these components, let me show you. Some of these components down there are not original to the circuit. Somebody did a mod back in 1948. As you can see, this is the signature of the person who, the technician who put this together. And there's another signature over here. I'm not sure if you noticed. Another signature of the person who put that together. So I'm thinking there's two technicians who were responsible for putting this thing together back in 1935. That's really neat. Just quality control, two people putting it together. So you know if something goes wrong or if there's a wrong part, they know who to trace it to, because obviously just two folks put it together. These are all the parts. Once again, high component, high military components, 1% where it counts. Carbon composite here. 100K for the voltage, so it won't drift. Well, I think it's a wire round. There you go. The RME 69 from 1935, completely restored. Works like a champ. Sounds wonderful. All week I've been listening to it at night during atmospheric conditions. I can hear Cuba, I can hear Korea, China, and a couple of other countries that I can't make out. I picked up South Africa day before yesterday. So this receiver does, and I'm in Southern California. I'm about 30 miles north from Los Angeles, and all I have is just a simple wire stretched from tree to tree, about 100 feet and 15 feet off the ground. Nothing fancy, just a basic piece of wire from my shack that I just pulled out, string up, and that's it. It's not even calibrated or tuned to any specific frequency. Back here you can see this. I replaced this pot. This is the pot for the noise reduction. The previous pot was just non-existent. It just didn't move. It was just frozen. I have some of these connectors that I want to replace. I'm not sure if I want to do that or keep that original yet or not, but maybe when I put the chassis in, I'll figure out if I want to do that. Like I said, I did put a fuse. These don't come with a fuse. Make sure you, if you do decide to work on yours, add a fuse. Drill a hole. See? Comes out through there. Put a 2-amp fuse on the hot side. I'm not sure why a fuse was not provided on these devices, on these receivers. This is the output for the audio. So let's talk about tips and tricks on peaking the IF can and how I got it to peak, and versus how the manual wants you to peak it versus the way I did it. And I think, in my opinion, the way I did it, you can do it any way you want to do it, but I think the way I did it worked for me, and I was able to peak the IF cans where this thing became a super monster as far as the receive sensitivity. It has a very low floor noise. So yeah, it's nice. Okay, let me flip it over and talk about that real quick. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is, well, what parts or components or devices that I use to peak this. And now what I've used is this homemade RMA antenna. And what it is, it's just a basic RMA. It's a load that how can I explain this? I'll put the description in the link so you can figure this out. But most of you, I'm sure, know what this is. It's just it's simulator. It simulates an antenna, so it won't drag down your receiver when you plug in the signal generator. You're going to need a signal generator, a universal counter or a frequency counter. You're going to use a multimeter like the one I have here, and a speaker. And let me show you the tools that I use to peak this. My alignment tool and what I've used. Let me show you real quick. You are going to need one of these. Okay, do not try to align this or tune this with a screwdriver. You will be frustrated because as soon as you try to do it with the screwdriver, you move it off and it's all over the map. You'll peak it, you think you're peaking it, and then you remove your screwdriver and it's all over the map. So make sure you use one of these. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Use one of these to peak it. So let me show you real quick. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and plug in your RMA antenna. I have it plugged into there to the frequency counter. Now the manual asks and wants you to set the frequency, the intermittent frequency to 700 kilocycles versus 465. There's a couple of reasons why they want to do that. I have my speculation after reading in a bunch of magazines, talking to a bunch of folks. We can speculate why they want you to do that, but in my opinion, it doesn't count right now. Let's just do it the way the manual does it, or the manual wants you to do it. So first of all, you get your RMA antenna, you got your hot lead and your negative, or your ground. You plug in, you turn on, and you always want to make sure you're on frequency when you are tuning. Plug this in. Hold on 1 second. I can't do this with 2 hands. Okay. As you can see, the frequency that I have now, 685 kilocycles. Obviously, it drifted. So you want to peak it at, and I'm not going to go through the whole tuning process. I'm just going to show you what worked for me. Okay, it's touchy, isn't it? If you have a digital one, that's much easier, but I don't. I have an old analog. Come on, get in there. So 700 kilocycles. That's what the manual wants you to tune it to, and that's what I'm going to peak it to. So what you want to do is get your RMA antenna. Turn this around. Plug the hot lead to your antenna input. Your negative, just like you would wire your antenna. Same way. Plug it in there, plugged in. So now you're feeding 700 kilocycles to the receiver. Okay? Now, the manual wants you to pay attention and they want you to peak it to a station. They want you to tune into a 700 kilocycle station, and they want you to pay attention to this, and they want you to go ahead and start peaking the transformer. So these are the transformers. This one, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 capacitors. So it's transformer 1, 2, and 3. I'm not sure. I think this is 3, 4, and 5, something like that. Look at this. Look at this schematic. So those are the transformers. So what worked for me is I have that meter and I have it set to the sensitive scale, and I'm feeding it a tone. I turn this on. Well, you know what? Let me turn this on. Oh, another thing too. If you're going to tune, if you have your if your workshop has fluorescent lights, you want to turn off all your fluorescent lights, because this thing will hum. If you have fluorescent, I have tons of fluorescent lights. I like lights. I love lights, and every time I turn on all my lights in the shop, when I turn this on, this thing hums and it buzzes because of all the fluorescent lights. So make sure you turn off all your fluorescent lights. So real quick and real simple. You turn your receiver on. You turn it to the tone, because it'll give you a tone, and that tone you want to hear it on that speaker, and you'll see it fluctuate on that meter. So you want to peak here, peak the tone here on that meter. And the settings is, you want to go to your broadcast, which is the first one, 700 kilocycles. This is your RF gain, your automatic. You want to leave it right there. Don't flip it over, just right before high peak, right there. Okay? Doesn't matter. This will matter as we go along. I'll tell you. You want to peak this. What is this? Resonator. You want to peak this till you get the highest reading deflection on that meter. Okay? And the audio, just bring it enough where you can stand the tone, but you're pretty much just going to be listening to, looking at that meter deflection. The higher, the better. Down here, peak this. This is your crystal selectivity. You want to bring this up. The manual wants you to use the crystal to peak it while the crystal's in the circuit. I don't like to do that. You could do it the way you want to do it. I'm going to peak it with the crystal off, because I can care less. All I want is the sensitivity to be super hot on this receiver. All I'm going to be using this for AM broadcast reception. I love AM. I love shortwave. This, for me, all the years that I've used the crystal, I haven't found any use, or at least for me it doesn't work. I've tuned it with it, and I've tuned the receiver with the crystal enabled and the crystal disabled. And from experience, when I do the crystal disabled, bypass the crystal, for some reason I always get a higher peak or stronger sensitivity of the receiver. So my opinion, you can do what you want, whatever the manual says. I'm go ahead and disable. And you do that by removing the knob all the way to your left. There's a switch inside that disables the crystal. I hear the ambulance. You hear that? You want to set your noise selector over to the right, and just pretty much turn it on until you hear a tone. You want to make sure you always keep your eye on the frequency at 700, and this is your sensitivity, your output level. Just bring it just enough, just a tad bit enough, where you can hear a tone coming out of the speaker. And slowly you start adjusting the first transformer, second transformer. You'll see the peak come up or come down, depends how you move. It doesn't take much. I mean, you're splitting hairs. Okay, you're splitting hairs when you peak this, but you definitely see a big improvement with new capacitors and new resistors. So that's how I do it. I peak these. These are the IF cans, and I peak to the highest level here. The manual wants you to watch here, but I believe this more. And this is plugged into the output of the speaker output. Okay, so you have your speaker plugged into the speaker output, and you have that meter plugged in directly to that speaker. Okay, and that's pretty much how I tune this receiver, how it worked for me. And now this receiver is super sensitive and super hot. I'm telling you, this is, for me, this is how I've been tuning these receivers, and it's been working for me. And I love the sensitivity. Once again, the manual wants you to tune it with the crystal phasing in circuit. I personally, I can care less about the crystal phasing, and for whatever reason, every time I tune it with the crystal phasing in the circuit, it's it's sensitive, but not as sensitive as I would like it to when I disable the crystal. Now, do I have a bad crystal? I don't know. But I took it off. I disabled it when I do my peaking, my cam peaking. Maybe yours might be different, but for me this works. And that's it. Just, and listen to that meter. Let me try to see if I can plug this in real quick, and so you can listen to the tone. Okay, hold on one sec. Okay, so I have this plugged in. I have a lot of fluorescent lights in here, so you can hear a lot of tone, a lot of noise because of the fluorescent lights. And this is the frequency I have it. Frequency. I have it. The band on 700 kilocycles, and I have the band spread just enough where I can peak it. You see that? So what you want to do, peak it, and so you can't hear a difference, but you can see the meter, and that's where it counts. Keep moving until you peak it. Okay, that's it. Okay, I'm going back. That's it. That's the peak. And you would have to adjust the gain. Look what happened. Right there. Keep it at 5 for now. This is the tone. Keep it at 5. I want to hear tone. Tone is good. Oops. Let me move it back out. I want to peak this. You can make the difference. Perfect, right there. Perfect. See, I want to hear the tone. I don't want to hear noise. This one too. Just adjust into all you hear is the tone, and you want to peak it. Now this is the crystal selector, like I was telling you. This is on. This is without the crystal. With the crystal. See the my minute increase. See, look. Oh, went too far. That's without the with the crystal enabled. No crystal enabled. Crystal enabled. No crystal. That's how I like to tune mine, with the crystal out of circuit. I know the manual wants to do with the circuit, but that's the way I want to tune this one, and it works for me. My priority is sensitivity on the radio. So the next thing you want to do, obviously, you get your dandy screwdriver, and you want to peak this transformer, this, and this. Start with the first one and slowly start tweaking till you see the meter deflection. You want to go as high. It eventually will peak out, and keep going and keep going. If it keeps going, obviously you guys change your voltage selector. But if you just first time RF peaking, you will get a lot of gain, and it takes a while. It takes a while for you to figure. It's very finicky at the beginning. Once you get the hang of it, it'll go very easy. And always want to pay attention to the 700 kilocycles. Okay. That's how I like to tune it. Keep a AC multimeter plugged in. These are the settings. Let me show you the settings on this multimeter. I have it on AC, 5 volt, and that's how I'm peaking it. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. This process and procedure worked for me as far as peaking the IF cans. You could do it your way, but the way I'm doing it, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just not tuning it with peaking it with the crystal in the circuit. I find it's much easier if I remove the crystal out of circuit. I'm not sure because if it's maybe I have a bad crystal. There's ways to figure out the frequency of the crystal. I'm not going to go there today. It's just a basic, simple how to peak your IF cans on the receiver, and this goes for a lot of receivers out there too. Just intermediate frequency just happen to be a 700 kilocycle. So yeah, that works. Okay, well, thanks for watching. If you have any input or suggestions or feedback, put in the suggestions. Once again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if this is interesting to you. Any positive feedback is welcome. Like I said, I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm a ham radio license operator. And I've been doing radios, building radios for about 35 years now. All right. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye.